Hello, and welcome to this IDTechEx webinar, 3 Ways to Understand the Quantum Sensing Market. My name is Noah El Alami. I'm a technology analyst with IDTechEx and the primary author of our newest Quantum Sensing Market report. IDTechEx has provided independent market research consultancy since 1999. Our research can be accessed through off-the-shelf reports, consulting, or a subscription tailor-made for your needs. We have in-depth content on a wide range of emerging technology topics, and so I highly suggest looking at the full list of reports on our website to get a true feel of the areas we cover. And please do reach out to the team at research@idtechex.com if you'd like any more detail about any of our reports or subscription packages. Today's webinar is focused on our recent publication on the quantum sensing market. This draws on our experience covering quantum, but also the highly related broader fields of photonics, advanced materials, and of course, sensors. One of the best ways to access IDTechEx research is through a subscription. A subscription allows you to build a package of reports most relevant to you, as well as providing access to a constantly updating stream of company profiles, slide decks dedicated to event and conference highlights, our database of forecasts, as well as time with our analysts. So please, do get in touch with us via research@idtechex.com or visit the webpage at idtechex.com/subscriptions to find out more about this service. And finally, before we delve into quantum sensing, I'd like to take a moment to point out our comprehensive portfolio of quantum research reports at IDTechEx. These cover the quantum technology market as a whole, as well as deep dives into the 3 main areas of commercialization: quantum computing, quantum communications, and quantum sensors. Today's webinar is designed as a taste of our newly released quantum sensors market report. I'll be sharing insights relevant to those developing or investing in quantum technology, suppliers of materials and manufacturing for this industry, and potential end users of quantum sensors. The agenda of this webinar will introduce quantum sensors, their value proposition, and a brief market overview. Then we'll cover the 3 ways to understand the quantum sensor market. We'll finish off with a case study, some concluding remarks, and further information about the report. We'll start with a brief introduction to the quantum sensor market. Sensors are used everywhere today to measure physical properties and can be used to collect data in a range of environments. They are ultimately transducers outputting measurable electrical signals due to external stimuli. The properties which are measurable using sensors are numerous, but those most relevant to the quantum sensor market are time, motion, gravity, electric and magnetic fields, current, and light. Quantum sensors depend on quantum phenomena to operate, meaning they sense by measuring effects on the smallest scales possible, the scale of individual atoms and other particles. As a result, quantum sensors typically add value by offering significant increases in sensitivity compared to their classical alternatives. In some cases, they even measure properties that were otherwise inaccessible beforehand. For example, a quantum magnetometer typically measures magnetic fields in the picotesla range, around 1,000 times improvement in sensitivity over classical alternatives. In a similar way, even the lowest frequency atomic clocks tick at orders of magnitude higher than quartz clocks. In some cases, the improved performance of quantum sensors stems simply from reduced power consumption, a smaller form factor, or superior remote sensing capabilities. But generally, quantum sensors are targeting high-value markets for high-performance sensing, quality over quantity. Now, a very top-level overview of the market landscape for quantum sensors, which is forecast to reach over $2 billion by 2045, with a CAGR of 11.4%. The quantum sensor market is diverse and growing steadily, with a few established technologies, many currently entering commercialization, and a few more on the development horizon. As the number of technologies and applications possible with quantum sensors increases, the number of commercial players will continue to grow. The market landscape is varied, with a large number of research spin-outs, established industry giants in aerospace, microelectronics, and of course sensor technology, as well as players in other parts of the quantum ecosystem, all keen to engage in the quantum sensing market. As an introduction to the scale of the long-term markets for quantum sensors, we compare the cumulative volumes forecast to be deployed by 2045. The key conclusions from assessing these market sizes is, first, TMR magnetic field sensors alone have the largest predicted volumes, with tens of billions of sensors expected to be deployed in the next 20 years. TMRs are already highly commercialized, and we'll talk about this later in the webinar. Number two, the two next largest markets are for atomic clocks, where maturing chip-scale technology could see their deployment in autonomous vehicles, and for single photon detectors, which will be crucial in the deployment of quantum communications and photonic quantum computing at scale. Number three, the market for quantum magnetic field sensors is also expected to grow with the adoption of quantum computing as well as seeing use in biomedical imaging. And finally, any large-scale deployment of quantum inertial sensors and RF sensors is dependent on sufficient reductions in their size, weight, power, and cost that they could see at least niche deployment in high-end automotive or Internet of Things applications. This leads us to the focus of today's webinar, the three different angles we can use to understand the quantum sensor market. First, the physical quantities. What physical quantities the sensors measure? This is arguably the most intuitive way to categorize quantum sensors, and also the most commonly used, including within the IDTechEx quantum sensors report. This is most relevant for technology and product developers seeking use cases for their new quantum sensing devices. Next, the platform. What quantum system the quantum sensor is built on. This is very interesting for looking at the manufacturing challenges and material needs, as well as market synergies with other technologies like quantum computing. This approach is most relevant for materials, components, and manufacturing providers seeking to enter the quantum sensing industry. Finally, the applications. Which key industries quantum sensors will be deployed in first? This is useful to see the market drivers, incumbent competition, and comparisons to existing solutions. This approach is most relevant for end users of quantum sensors, who care less about what's inside the quantum sensor, but more what it does, the value it provides, and how it improves on existing hardware. The first angle we'll take a look at is the physical quantities measured by quantum sensors. So the most obvious way to describe a sensor is simply by what it senses. In this table, we can see the physical quantities measured, the type of sensor this corresponds to, and then one example each of a classical sensor that is already widely used today, and a developing or commercialized quantum sensor alternative. This way of looking at the quantum sensor market circles back to the core value proposition, a higher sensitivity for measuring these quantities than any incumbent approach. However, improved performance needs to be maintained when these quantum sensors are manufactured at scale and used in real life in order to create value and compete with classical sensors. This categorization by physical quantities is the most widely used and what you will see in the IDTechEx report on quantum sensors. This chart gives an overview of the categories of quantum sensors covered in the report, grouped by the physical quantities that they measure. The full report includes a technical description, in-depth analysis, and 20-year market forecast line for each of these technologies. And there are, of course, also more types of quantum sensors that could be included in this report, whether under one of these sensing categories or for sensing other properties. However, this report aims to capture the types of quantum sensors that are currently at a development level where they are likely to make a sizable market impact in the next 20 years. The category of quantum sensors will of course grow and expand in that time as other technologies begin to mature out of research. And in a similar manner to adding more technologies to this list, you could also make the case to remove certain technologies from this list of quantum sensors. In truth, the definition of a quantum sensor is less defined than, for example, a quantum computer, although edge cases exist for virtually any category of technology. Some of the highlighted technology types, that's those outlined here in red, may not always be counted as quantum sensors by others in the space. For example, you might not immediately think of a clock being a sensor, although it does sense time. TMRs, or tunneling magnetoresistance sensors, are already fairly well established and commercialized, and single photon detectors can jump the line between component and sensor and quantum technology or photonics. However, the two most important factors behind IDTechEx's decisions to include these sensors here is number one, whether technologies use quantum phenomena. That includes the quantum tunneling effect in TMR sensors and the particle wave duality of light that single photon detectors use. And secondly, whether these technologies have the potential to be miniaturized or scalable enough to make a sizable market impact in the next 20 years. Some of the technologies here, such as the TMRs, have already been established as a low-cost, small form factor sensor for the mass market, and are therefore not always associated with quantum or quantum sensor. This is interesting to note because in the future, if more of the sensors here become low cost and commonplace, they may also become less associated with the terms quantum or quantum sensor. And so the classification of quantum sensors is related more broadly to how the word quantum is used for emerging technologies. In a similar manner to other industry buzzwords like AI, for example, most players lean at describing their technology as a quantum sensor where appropriate, but a few others have their reasons to shy away. It is important to be aware that the term quantum has become somewhat of a marketing term in emerging technologies. The definition of a quantum sensor is generally less well defined compared to quantum communications or computing, and there is ambiguity especially in the fields of imaging and photonics. While most companies, especially startups, tend to capitalize on the use of quantum in their branding and marketing to sound innovative, cutting edge, exciting, and futuristic, in some well-established markets, larger companies may be more cautious using the term because of some of the negative connotations shown here. And so all of this can lead to confusing cases where very similar technology based on the same principles may be branded by some players as a quantum sensor and in other cases not. Next, we'll talk about the platforms used for quantum sensing. There are various technology platforms with which it's possible to build quantum sensors. These platforms or quantum systems are closely related to quantum computing efforts using the same quantum platform. Ultimately, all that's required to build a quantum sensor is access to quantum states which are sensitive to physical properties. These quantum states also need to be measurable with conventional readout electronics in order to produce a signal. The quantum technology platforms most relevant to quantum sensing are, first, atomic interferometry, which is a broad term for any approach using gases of trapped or cooled atoms. And you might have heard of cold atom players like Inflection before, or the atomic clock sold by Microchip. This platform is also closely related to cold atom or neutral atom quantum computing efforts. Next are superconducting systems, such as SQUIDs and SNSPDs. And the superconducting platform leverages the exceptional properties of superconducting materials when cooled to low enough temperatures, in order to enable incredibly low noise and high sensitivity measurements. And this platform is related to the superconducting quantum computers and quantum annealers built by the likes of IBM or D-Wave. We also have nitrogen vacancy sensors in diamond, that is, deliberately implanted point defects in an artificial diamond chip. This platform has emerged relatively recently in the fields of both quantum sensing and computing, and has generated a lot of excitement by potentially being a very compact quantum platform that can also be used at room temperature. Magnetometers, gyroscopes, and electric field sensors are all being explored with the Diamond platform, and we'll delve into more detail on the Diamond platform later. And finally, there are a few quantum sensors based on more conventional semiconductor manufacturing processes. More detail on each of these technology platforms and how they are used is covered in each chapter of the report. But why do we care? Why are these platforms so important? So first of all, these quantum platforms show the synergistic development of each technology with other quantum sensors and sometimes quantum computers that are using the same platform. The general difference between quantum computing and sensing is that in computing, entanglement and superposition of many states is essential, while for sensing, miniaturizing the hardware available to isolate just a few is more critical. In computing, we want many quantum systems or qubits, entirely isolated from their environment, but able to interact with each other to perform computations and able to be read out. Meanwhile, in sensing, we want a single quantum system isolated from its environment, except in the one property it will measure. Because a single quantum system is generally easier to prepare, there is typically a faster timeline from concept to commercialization than for quantum computing technologies, and so we see quantum sensors already generating value today. And secondly, quantum platforms highlight the materials and manufacturing needs of the quantum sensing technology. For example, exotic materials like superconductors or artificial diamond, or specialized components like lasers or cryogenics. The development of components for quantum sensing is critical for each technology platform. Looking at the quantum sensor market in terms of the platform used is most interesting to materials and components manufacturers, because bringing even the best quantum sensors from the lab to the mass markets relies on the scalable manufacture of their materials and components. The specialized components used in quantum sensors are shown here, along with applications where they'll be deployed and the current readiness for the market. Now, establishing a reliable supply chain can be just as important for the growth of the quantum sensing market as research or product development. Therefore, many national schemes are now fostering the sovereign production of materials and components for quantum sensors. For example, glass-blown vapor cells have long been used for metrology, the calibration and stabilization of lasers, in high-performance atomic clocks and frequency references, and various spectroscopy and interferometry techniques. However, the scalable manufacture of vapor cells will be vital to the mass production of any quantum sensor using the atomic interferometry platform. This includes both early-stage quantum accelerometers and gyroscopes, but would also improve the value proposition of atomic clocks if costs can be reduced significantly. The production of vapor cells in wafer-scale manufacturing processes has been demonstrated and has the potential to mass manufacture highly regular vapor cells for quantum sensors. Conventional glass blowing is now seeing competition from semiconductor manufacturing, and additive manufacturing for vapor cells is also being explored, although in earlier stages. And for our third and final way of understanding the quantum sensor market, we're going to look at some applications and key industries for quantum sensors. We'll now look at the 4 key industries that quantum sensors will see deployment in over the next 20 years, focusing on the overarching trends that could drive their adoption. These industries are healthcare, automotive, aerospace, and quantum. The reason these industries are the first to benefit from quantum sensors is because they generally have a higher tolerance for system costs and a need for the highest performance in sensing. I'd particularly like to draw attention to the automotive and aerospace sectors. Here, precision navigation is the key application for a range of transport modes, and quantum sensors, or a suite of quantum sensors, can improve the positioning, navigation, and timing capabilities. The main driver for adoption of quantum sensors in these industries is for GNSS-denied navigation. Atomic clocks are already used in precision aerospace, in satellites, and in underwater navigation. The first deployment of quantum gyroscopes and accelerometers are also seeking aerospace or naval applications. To date, the most common method to accurately determine one's position and the local time is via data from a Global Navigation Satellite System, or GNSS for short. However, there are environments whereby access to GNSS data is restricted. This could be due to terrain blocking signals like in a tunnel, or due to spoofing or jamming by a malicious third party. Regional outages have made headlines in recent years, and precision navigation systems are under increasing pressure to remain reliable in GNSS-denied environments. For example, for autonomous cars, navigational precision of just a few centimeters is required in some scenarios, with risk to life a major hazard associated with system error. Quantum sensors for position and motion, gyroscopes and accelerometers, and atomic clocks can offer local access to precise inertial navigation systems without depending on GNSS. To date, many quantum sensing technologies have remained too large or expensive to be adopted for mass market navigational needs. However, as the technology matures, atomic clocks in particular could enter larger volume automotive markets too. Especially with trends in sensor redundancy and autonomy, IDTechEx sees the emergence of Level 3 and Level 4 autonomous cars aligning well with the commercial readiness of next-generation chip-scale atomic clocks. Now I'll use what we've just covered for a case study of nitrogen vacancy magnetometers. The physical quantity measured by nitrogen vacancy center magnetic field sensors is of course magnetic fields, and the platform is the nitrogen vacancy center in diamond, that's artificial diamond platform that we discussed earlier. The main two applications being explored currently are magnetic field sensing in microscopy and medical imaging, and applications in GNSS-denied navigation are also being explored. This SWOT analysis summarizes the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of NV center magnetic field sensors. If you'd like to see more of these analyses for each quantum sensor technology, please refer to our quantum sensing market report. Some I'd like to briefly point out for how they relate to what we just discussed are first, the small size and robust nature of the diamond platform, which leads to unique applications of NV sensors in microscopy and potentially enables chip-scale sensing. What can't be understated is the importance of competition from other quantum sensors, but more importantly from improving classical sensors, especially for magnetic field sensing. This is a very competitive application. And one of the core sources of uncertainty in this technology particularly is the need for a better quantum diamond supply chain. But as we will discuss next, this also presents an opportunity even for those not developing sensors directly themselves. Looking at quantum diamond more widely as a platform allows us to break down the value chain into four broad sections: the raw materials, diamond synthesis and post-processing, device integration, and target markets. Now, there's a developed market for the supply of raw materials, such as carbon and high purity gases, because these also serve the wider synthetic diamond market. And on the other end of the value chain, we have a growing number of established companies and quantum tech startups developing NV diamond-based quantum sensors, in particular startups focusing on microscopy and medical imaging. However, analyzing the value chain reveals a relative lack of players in the synthesis and processing of quantum diamond specifically. Speaking to industry players revealed that currently, a lot of the manufacture and development of quantum diamond is done in-house by research centers and universities in order to achieve the specifications needed. Centralizing the supply of quantum diamond in a far more scalable and efficient manner is therefore a significant area for growth. And it's not just the synthesis of NV diamond by processes such as chemical vapor deposition, but the etching and post-processing of diamond that also requires further development. As NV diamond sensors transition from R&D to commercial status, their supply will become critical. There could be bottlenecks in the manufacturing and materials unless more robust supply chains are developed in time. Now we're going to delve deeper into just two of the key players in that middle section of the quantum diamond supply chain. Element 6 and Diatope. Diatope are quantum industry specialists, offering more bespoke NV diamond products with in-depth quantum sensing know-how. The aim as a university spin-out is very much to centralize more of the quantum diamond manufacturer, replacing the inefficient nature of in-house production at every research center. Meanwhile, Element 6 of the De Beers Group are established and well-respected suppliers of artificial diamond, with their products serving a range of industries, including some in quantum sensing, with a line of NV-centered diamond products ready for the quantum market. Now, due to the differences in their scale and business approach, it would be naive just to frame these two as direct competitors. Rather, these are two players filling different roles in the quantum diamond industry. As diamond-based quantum computing and sensing grows, the number of suppliers in this part of the value chain is also expected to grow, with other players finding niches or supplying different regional markets. In the quantum sensing report, we look at the quantum diamond market in more detail, and also some of the other so-called quantum foundries that have recently emerged to address the materials and manufacturing challenges in scaling up the quantum industry. And finally, I'll wrap up today's webinar with some key conclusions. So that was a brief analysis of NV magnetometers, just one of the technology areas covered in the new quantum sensing report. As you can see, there are many more types of quantum sensors, covering a diverse market landscape, and the report covers each of these in detail with a SWOT analysis, discussion of key players, technology innovations, and manufacturing challenges. So to summarize today's webinar, the primary value proposition of quantum sensors is through orders of magnitude higher sensitivity than their classical incumbents. We saw that the quantum sensor market is diverse and growing steadily, with a few established technologies, many currently entering commercialization, and a few more on the development horizon. Developing the supply chain for materials, components, and manufacturing methods that are needed for quantum sensors is just as crucial as research and development of the products themselves. And finally, the first industries to benefit from quantum sensors are healthcare and aerospace, with emerging applications in automotive, the quantum market itself, and other industries. That's all. Thank you for listening to today's webinar. If you're interested in any IDTechEx research, please do get in touch or visit our website. Thank you.